Hi, welcome to NAB 2017. I'm Joe O'Halloran, Editor-in-Chief of Rapid TV News, and I'm here with Bel Lepe, Co-founder and SVP Products and Solutions of Ooyala. Welcome, Bel.
Thank you for having me, and thank you.
The online video market has made a hugely strong start to 2017. What's been driving this growth?
Well, fundamentally, the key driver in all of this, of course, is when eyeballs that are used to basically consuming content as part of the traditional TV process, appointment viewing, et cetera, as they start to migrate online, digitally. That's the core driver, and everything else basically comes in the wave of that. You then have advertisers basically coming behind that, trying to basically capitalize on more and more audiences now being available digitally. You have traditional MVPDs now releasing skinny bundles. Again, at the core of it is just folks are finding new ways to consume content, or put another way, they're making it very clear what their preference is for how they want to consume television.
Is there a danger this complexity could compromise monetization from the office?
Absolutely, and you will see that in a lot of the moves that are occurring across the industry in terms of the acquisitions that are occurring, in terms of how solutions are being created, that the solution to this is to pursue much more of an integrated path, where before you might have an OVP capability, and then separate from that an ad tech capability, and then separate from that capability for creating content. More and more of that is being brought under a single umbrella, and that's one of the ways in which they're addressing that complexity. And by basically having that be as part of one content continuum, you're able to make smarter decisions around monetization. But you're exactly right that that complexity, if not managed well, if not managed within the context of an integrated offering, it can have a very pejorative or negative impact on monetization.
Now, integrated offerings is something that Ooyala does. What do you have here at NAB 2017?
So in terms of some of the offerings that we're talking about today, we are talking about our IVP, which we really see as the evolution of what was an OVP, so from an online video platform to an integrated video platform. And in terms of how we define it, there are really three core capabilities. There's the media logistics capability, which speaks to basically a set of tools that help customers create content in a much more efficient fashion. There's the OVP component, which is really the kind of traditional digital distribution component. And then there's the third piece of that, or leg of that stool, so to speak, which is the ad tech piece, which is monetization. So when we talk about IVP, it's really those three product lines that are sitting front and center. And underneath those three capabilities is a data lake, basically data connecting the three and helping to drive insights across each of those product lines.
Now, you mentioned insights. That suggests like analytics plays a big part in this.
Absolutely, and that's one of the other very important trends that we've been seeing. To your original question around what are some of the changes that we're seeing in the space, there's more and more of a focus on how data can be used within the context of the broader workflow, how you can use data to drive insights to make your workflow smarter. And so for instance, some of the insights that we're able to drive are things like understanding what the optimal ad load might be for a particular piece of content, or understanding what the ROI is for a particular piece of content. And that can drive other decisions like the right content to go and acquire from a licensing standpoint, or even the type of content to be able to create. And the reason why we're able to drive those insights is because we've commingled those data sets that previously used to be quite siloed. All of a sudden, you have them feeding and describing a single piece of content throughout its entire life cycle.
Behind you got a nice list of clients here. How easy it has been for them to change their working practices for what you've just described?
Well, it varies from customer to customer, but one of the things that I will say is they all understand that this is where the industry is going. There are trends that they look at just like everyone else is looking at. They're looking at the fact that you have certain companies like Netflix spending billions of dollars on original content, and they're realizing that they also need to be able to create a lot of content and do it in a very efficient fashion. So you have customers like Sky, for instance, that leverage our media logistics capability Flex to help streamline their distribution workflow. So they have the rights to EPL games, and they leverage our platform to help streamline the process of distributing highlights. So that's for instance of how they've kind of acknowledged the complexity, they've acknowledged where the focus needs to be, and we're helping them with that process by making it more efficient to create content and distribute content.
So here we are now outside in the car park at NAB. If we're here in the sunshine next year, how do you see the industry being different?
You mean like moving forward? Or
Yeah.
You know, we've discussed a lot of this notion of kind of the integrated video platform, and ultimately one way that one could think about it is it's really composed of two phases. Right now, everyone's very focused on leveraging capabilities that exist as part of one integrated platform. Everyone is basically walking before they can run. So that's the focus right now. Making transcoding work a lot better with content creation, making distribution be much more aware of all of your contracts, etc. What you will start to see happen over the next 4 to 6 quarters is, now that you have those products co-located, they're starting to create data that, again, is also commingled. So the focus is going to shift from just the pure enablement to the optimization. So how you start to use that data that's coming from co-located products, and you're pumping that data back into the broader workflow. So I believe that that's one of the very important shifts that you're going to see, that IVP won't just be about having the products work well together, it's going to also be about having the data make those products working well together, have them work together smarter and in a better and more efficient fashion.
How do you see the transition to IP-based broadcasting? Is that totally like acknowledgement of what you guys do?
And well, it depends on how you kind of define IP-based broadcasting. Are you purely talking about the distribution side? Are you talking about...
From the distribution side mainly.
Sure. Well, I mean, you certainly have skinny bundles. You have a significant number of OTT offerings that are kind of going that way. So it ties in very well with what we're describing. Media logistics, and specifically our Flex product, that exists to help create a convergence between what is IP-based broadcasting and the more traditional broadcasting. We see that ultimately those paths will converge, and don't mean it in terms of everything's eventually going to be delivered over IP. More that those workflows shouldn't be considered separate, right? That at the point of attack you might say, we're going to be sending this over to digital, and it's going to have, or IP-based broadcasting, and it's going to have a very similar metadata schema to what you might be doing with traditional. So we see those two workflows becoming much more aware of one another, and you're already starting to see some of the initial groundwork for that today.
And finally, would this all be reflected in your roadmap for next year?
Absolutely, absolutely. And IVP, I would say, is one of those kind of labels that we've coined, and there's a reason for that, and that's because that's where we believe that the industry is going, that there's going to be much more of a focus on being able to manage more and more of, again, the content creation process as part of a singular workflow.
Bel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching.